They whispered your name in a room you'll never see, slid a photograph across a table and sealed it with blood money. Somewhere out there, a man who never misses was sent to erase you like you never existed. But when his eyes finally met yours, something in him cracked. Something ancient and buried woke up. He saw something no one else ever noticed, and that moment shattered everything they thought they controlled. They believed I would never find out, but I felt it long before the first whisper began. Somewhere in a smoke-filled back room, my name slid across a table with a price tag attached. Can you imagine that? A room full of cowards thinking they could buy silence by buying my end. I laughed when I first heard the rumor, one of those dry, humorless laughs that make people shift in their seats. But then it hit me. They weren't joking. They didn't even hesitate. They wired the money, gave the instructions, and thought that would be the end of it. They thought life worked like a vending machine, insert cash, out comes a dead man. But people like that forget that some of us don't fit their predictable patterns. Some of us are built from shards of everything they tried to break. Are you listening? Because here's where it gets interesting. Imagine someone studying your photograph like you're just a mark, tracing your habits, flaws, and weaknesses. That hitman sat in a dim hotel room, my picture in one hand, a cigarette in the other, thinking he knew me. He didn't. He didn't know the nights I bled through my teeth just to finish something I believed in. He didn't know the betrayals that left invisible scars, or the countless times I was left for dead long before anyone thought of hiring him. They always assume their targets are soft. They never think about the ones who survive storms armed with nothing but grit and bad humor. I could almost hear them whispering my name like a curse, believing it would echo in secret. Doesn't that make you wonder who's whispering yours? They didn't just want me gone. They were afraid. Afraid of the way I kept standing back up, of the way I refused to play their game. And that fear, that pure, unfiltered fear, was worth every dollar they threw on that table. But fear blinds people. It makes them think the world still runs on triggers and paydays, how wrong they were. And you, yes, you watching, think about this. Who's sitting in a room right now betting against you? Who's counting on you to stay broken, silent, done? They think they know your story, but just wait until they step close enough to see the fire in your eyes. That's when their hands start shaking. That's when the story shifts. That's when it gets good. Somewhere miles away, a man sat alone with my picture under a dim light, the air thick with stale coffee and the weight of silence. He wasn't new to this life. He'd ended names carved into marble, erased people whose families never found answers. But this time, something about my face made him linger longer than usual. He tilted his head, squinting as if the photograph held a secret he couldn't read. He laid out his tools like an artist preparing for a masterpiece, his palette steel and cold precision. A silencer, a pair of gloves, an old knife with scratches that told stories. He chuckled to himself, expecting predictability. Yet he hesitated, staring at the photo like he'd seen a ghost. What was it that made him pause? That question haunted him. He studied my routine, my early workouts, my late-night walks through streets no sane person would cross. He jotted notes, laughed at the dented car I still drove, a professional studies weakness. But the more he watched, the less sense I made. Every place I went had rhythm, like I was exactly where I was meant to be. He followed me once into a crowded coffee shop, expecting tension, but found me sipping black coffee, calm, scanning the room like I owned the air around me. That calm unnerved him. He was used to fear, trembling hands, frantic eyes. But I didn't fidget, didn't rush, didn't look over my shoulder. That kind of calm felt unnatural, like standing too close to a silent storm. Soon his notes turned to questions. Who survives this much and still smiles? Who carries scars and still walks like the ground bends for them? He trailed me through parking lots and rain-slick streets, waiting for a crack in the armor, but found none. Instead, he saw me stop mid-stride to help a child pick up a fallen backpack, to assist an old man with a flat tire, all without breaking composure. His heartbeat quickened. Mine didn't. And that difference aided him like rust on steel. You ever seen a predator doubt himself? It's a rare sight. He started muttering during stakeouts, scoffing, then laughing nervously at nothing. That's what happens when someone who believes in their own legend starts to feel the ground shake beneath them. The closer he watched, the more he realized he wasn't hunting someone ordinary. He was staring into something relentless, something that didn't fear death because it had already survived worse. The moment he saw me not as prey, but as something he couldn't categorize, his world began to splinter. There's a strange thing that happens when someone decides you're finished. It lights a fuse inside you that never goes out. I've felt that burn for years, long before their money hit the table. Every scar on my knuckles tells a story. None of them fairy tales. I've been that person staring at unpaid bills at midnight, replaying every betrayal until my teeth ached from clenching. I remember when friends vanished, when I slept in my car with fogged windows and cold dreams, while others were warm behind their walls. But I still woke up grinning like a lunatic because giving up wasn't an option. Pain builds people. You stack disappointment like bricks until you're standing inside a fortress no one else understands. You've been there too, haven't you? Those nights when your chest feels hollow, but you keep moving. Real strength isn't loud. It's the quiet second wind that rises after everyone swore you were done. It's looking in the mirror and smirking through red eyes. That's what he couldn't see through the scope. He didn't see a victim. He saw someone carved out of survival itself. Either way, I wasn't afraid. I'd lived through betrayals sharper than bullets, through boardrooms where every smile hit a knife. Compared to that, this was child's play. You know that kind of calm, right? The one that comes after being burned so many times the fire doesn't scare you anymore. That's not numbness. That's power. He hesitated again. I saw it in the tremor of his fingers, in the tiny quake of his breath. I took a step closer, bold enough to make him flinch. "Do it if you can," I whispered. The weight of the gun suddenly seemed to double. He froze, eyes locked on mine, searching desperately for fear to justify the pull of the trigger. But there was none. There was only something raw, resilience so unyielding it hurt to look at. The hunter's shoulders slumped just slightly, like something in his chest gave way. He muttered something low, something broken, a sound that didn't belong to a killer but to a man lost inside himself. That's when I knew the ghost they'd hired was unraveling. The story had slipped from his control. And if you've ever stood your ground against something meant to destroy you, you know that jolt in your chest right now, that electric pulse whispering, "I'm still here." That moment when fear melts into something sharper, almost euphoric. That was me. That was the moment everything changed. By the time dawn scraped its thin light across the horizon, the man who'd come to erase me wasn't the same. I imagined him sitting in a lonely roadside diner, hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug, like it could keep his thoughts from spilling out. The waitress asked if he wanted more sugar, and he just laughed. A bitter, hollow sound that made her step back. A man paid to be a nightmare, now haunted by what he couldn't destroy. My face, calm, unflinching, kept replaying in his mind like a reel that wouldn't stop spinning. He even whispered to himself, "What the hell are you?" The words came out cracked, disbelieving. The couple at the next table looked over, startled, but he didn't notice. He took another sip, burned his tongue, didn't flinch. That's how far gone he was. Every time his mind tried to convince him I was just another job, something deeper inside screamed, "No!" My presence sharpened until it became something you could feel before I even spoke. You ever notice how rooms get quieter when real energy walks in? That hush isn't fear, it's recognition. They couldn't name it, but they felt it. My calm unnerved them more than chaos ever could. The man they sent to handle me, he disappeared without a trace, and his absence screamed louder than any confession. They started imagining conversations that never happened, alliances that terrified them, wondering if he'd switched sides, or worse, if he'd seen something in me that made him question everything. That thought spread through their ranks like a virus. Suddenly, their luxury didn't taste the same. Their laughter cracked halfway through, because deep down they knew the weapon had turned into the warning. While they whispered and waited for headlines that never came, I just kept building, kept moving, kept glowing right in the open. Isn't that the sweetest form of defiance? To thrive so visibly that your success becomes the haunting. I watched their certainty rot from the inside out, their hands trembling over glass tables while pretending they still had control. They didn't. I did. Because when your energy doesn't break, it bends the air around you. Every betrayal became a brick. Every doubt became a mirror that showed me who I'd become. Unshaken, unbought, unbreakable. And here's the truth. They'll come for you, too. They'll try to make you question your fire, your path, your worth. Don't flinch. Keep your pace. Keep your focus. And let their fear feed your rise. Because once you learn to stand through storms, you stop needing shelter. You become the thunder. You become the presence that changes rooms. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them study your silence. It means they feel your impact. Now look at me and understand, this isn't just my story. It's yours, waiting to ignite. So if you feel that pulse in your chest right now, that recognition, that reminder of your own power, don't waste it. Turn it into motion. Turn it into creation. So if you feel that pulse in your chest right now, that quiet, undeniable thrum that tells you this story was never just mine, don't ignore it. That's your fire answering back. Every time you've been counted out, every time they mistook your silence for surrender, that energy has been waiting for a signal like this one. Because once you recognize what you carry, the whole world shifts. The same way they once whispered my name in fear, one day they'll whisper yours in awe. That's what happens when truth outlasts every attempt to bury it. You stop chasing validation and start radiating inevitability. You start walking with that untamable calm, that unbreakable rhythm that makes people rethink what power even looks like. It's not in the noise, it's in the composure. It's in how you stand when storms call your name. So stand tall even when the room shakes. Speak less. Move sharper. Let them wonder what changed, when really it's just you stepping fully into what was always yours. Because that's the secret. They never feared your weakness. They feared the day you realized you never needed their permission to rise. So keep building, keep moving, keep breathing, that same quiet defiance that rewrites the story every time they try to end it. The ones who once tried to silence you will end up amplifying your echo. The same rooms that conspired against you will replay your words like scripture. That's how energy works. It always returns to its source. Stronger, louder, undeniable. Let them talk. Let them circle. You just keep rising until even their shadows start bowing. And if this story lit something in you, if you felt that heat crawl up your spine and remind you of who you are, don't let it fade when the screen goes dark. Feed it. Protect it. Carry it into your next move like a torch. Stay loud. Stay untouchable. Stay unbreakable. This energy doesn't end here. It continues with you. So, if you're ready to rise with it, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs the reminder. Subscribe for more of this fire, and join the membership if you're ready to walk among those who refuse to be erased. This is just the beginning. The story isn't over. It's waking up. I laugh sometimes at how ridiculous my path has been. 3 jobs, holes in my shoes, turning down easy money that would have cost me my soul. Ever face that? Choosing right over easy when your stomach growls, but your pride roars louder. That's the forge. That's where you stop being ordinary. He must have sensed it, because the more he watched, the more he saw pieces they couldn't break. He saw me training at 3 a.m., lifting weight like I was raising every burden that ever tried to bury me. He saw me give my last dollar to a stranger because I knew what empty pockets felt like. And maybe that's what scared him. How do you destroy someone who doesn't fear losing everything? You felt that too, haven't you? Those nights when the world laughed and you cried quietly in the dark, but you're still here. That's not an accident, that's proof. So when they think you're easy to erase, remember, they don't know the miles you've walked barefoot through fire. Don't blink yet, because the moment he saw through me was the moment his perfect record began to crack. Every shadow in the city seemed to lean toward me that night, and I felt his presence long before I saw him. That eerie weight in the air, that sense of being watched. It wrapped around me as I crossed the cracked pavement of an old parking lot. My steps echoed, steady, calm, though my pulse was a drumbeat warning me something bigger was about to break. He followed at a distance, hood low, pretending to be part of the night. I caught glimpses of him in windows and puddles, a shadow that didn't belong. But instead of fear, calm settled over me. I knew this moment would come, maybe even wanted it. That twisted excitement when the thing you've prepared for finally shows up. You know that feeling. Through the corner of my eye, I saw him stop when I helped a woman with her bags. He froze, confused, like kindness didn't fit the profile of a man worth killing. But resilience hides in small choices. Staying kind when the world teaches cruelty. You've done that too, those quiet mercies no one saw. Minutes passed, tension thick as smoke. He watched me turn into a dim alley, a perfect setup. His hand brushed the weapon, but something stopped him. He saw the way my shoulders squared, the slight tilt of my head, like I was daring the dark to test me. That subtle movement made his breath catch. Why didn't he pull the trigger? The human mind is a messy place. He had ended men stronger and colder, but here his fingers trembled, not from fear of death, but from the realization that he was no longer the hunter. For a split second, our eyes locked beneath the flicker of a streetlight, and the silence between us felt like a war. My gaze didn't waver. His widened, then softened, disbelief written across his face. He saw the years of grit, the pain, the nights I refused to die, and it rattled him to his core. Remember this. People can handle your anger, your tears, your noise, but your calm in the face of destruction, that's what breaks them. That's when the rules change, and that's exactly what happened next, the moment the whole game flipped and the story stopped belonging to them. Stay close. Not every night is built for legends, but that one was. The streetlight above buzzed with a weary hum, casting its uneven glow across the cracked pavement, as if even it were struggling to hold on. The air grew tight, like the whole world was holding its breath with me, waiting for something to shatter. Behind me, footsteps slowed, steady, deliberate, too measured to belong to a passerby. A quiet smirk pulled at my lips because after all this time, after all the whispers and warnings, we were finally here. I didn't turn right away. I let the silence stretch, let him believe the control was still his. That's the thing about silence. It strips people bare. It reveals what fear hides. In that stillness, I heard the faint metallic click of his hand brushing against the weapon in his coat pocket. Not out of confidence, out of habit. My laugh slipped free before I could stop it. Low, sharp, the kind that makes even predators hesitate. He faltered mid-step. You could almost taste his confusion. Who laughs when death stands inches away? Only someone who's danced with it long enough to stop mistaking it for an ending. When I finally turned, his face was half hidden beneath the hood, eyes cold but flickering, uncertain. He expected fear, maybe pleading, but what he saw instead was amusement. Quiet, steady, like I'd been waiting for him. "You're late," I said softly, almost playful. And that single line cracked something in him. The way his jaw tightened told me everything. This wasn't routine anymore. The most dangerous man in the room suddenly looked like the one out of place. He took a step forward, closing the distance, his gun still low but heavy in his grip. The air between us pulsed, thick, electric. I could feel the thud of his heartbeat, fast and uneven. Or maybe it was the world's pulse syncing with mine.